Welcome to Cybernet Security. In today's video, we're talking about virtual networking types. We have different types of virtual networking. If you are using a VirtualBox, VMware Hyper-V, or any virtualization platforms, this knowledge that we are going to talk about today is applicable to any of these areas. So, in the different types of virtual networking we have the NATs. We have the bridge network, we have the internal network, we have the host only adapter, we have the NAT network. These are different networking types that we have on virtualization platforms. I already, before now, I have a couple of VMs running on my machine. I have an Ubuntu server running, and I have a couple of Windows machines running as well. So I did a video previously on how you can install Ubuntu server on VirtualBox. So in case you have any challenges installing VMs on VirtualBox, you can easily go to those videos, go back to those videos. I'll add the link to this the comments section of this video. You can click on them and go and look at how you can create a VMs on VirtualBox. So here now I have two VMs running, Ubuntu Server 1 and Ubuntu Server 2. So these are the two running VMs. I already opened them. So when you come to my VirtualBox here, once you create a VM, you can click on the VM like this, just the way I've selected on this one, pen testing. You click on settings. Here now you can go to networking. So when you come here, you have 4 different network adapters. You can configure different network types on them that you can use for this particular VM that we have selected. So these network adapters can accept multiple configurations. For example, in network 1, which is the one I have enabled, if you can see here, others don't have this box checked. So currently on this my VM, I'm just using one adapter, but you can utilize the rest of the adapters at once. You can have more than 3-4 adapters, but anything more than this can equally be done through the command line. So here now, when you click on this attach to, we have different network types here, network interface types here. So just like I've said earlier, we have the NAT, we have the bridge adapter, we have the internal network, we have the host only adapter, we have the NAT network. So which is what we are going to be talking about today. So let's start with the NATs. I already have NATs on this guy, so I click on OK. So here now I have these two VMs running which are configured on NATs. If I go to the settings and go to networks, you can see they're already configured on NATs. If I go to this one as well, you can see it is equally configured on NATs. So one thing with NAT network is when you have a NAT network, NAT networks kind of have their own separate networks. When you have a NAT network, it creates a different network for each VMs. Understand? That means when you are running multiple VMs on NAT networks, multiple VMs can have the same IP address. For example, if I have a NAT network and I create a multiple VM, for example, VM1 here has like now VM1 has this IP address 10.0.2.15, and the same IP address can equally be issued to NAT VM2, which is this second computer here. These both computers have access to the internet through the host machine. This host machine is your laptop that you're running that virtualization on. That's the host machine. They are kind of creating a virtual router on your host machine, and this router has a DHCP server enabled on it, which issues this IP address to these different computers. Although they have two same IP address, but the two of them can easily access the internet without having any conflict. Reason being, these two devices are on a separate network. each device you create a NAT, each VM you create a NAT on, will automatically be on a separate network. This NAT device, computer 1 cannot communicate with computer 2. Computer 2 cannot communicate with computer 1 because they are on a different network. But computer 1 can easily go to the internet successfully. The same thing as computer 2 can go to the internet successfully. So let's see how it works. Let me go back to my VMs. So this is my computer 1. The computer on the left, if you check, let me check my IP address, IP here. So here now you can see we have the IP address as 192 192.168, I'm sorry, 10.0.2.15/24. This is the IP address of this first machine, computer 1. If I go to my next computer, the second computer I have here, and I do the same IP space A, you can see this one is equally 10.0.2.15, which is exactly the same IP address as computer 1. Reason is because they are both using NAT network. NAT, not NAT network, because there is NAT and NAT network. So, but we'll get to NAT network after, as we go down the lane. So here now, let me try to ping here. I will try to ping this other VM from here. When you do that, the IP that you are pinging here is the computer IP. You cannot get to the other machine because they're having a separate IP. The other one, they are having a separate network. The same thing goes to this other machine. You can't get to this other machine because they're having a separate network. So, but if I want to, alright, okay, let's go. Let's take it gradually. So now the next step of what we are gonna check is NATs. Sorry, let's stop this. That's the first example. That's what NAT means. The two computers cannot communicate to each other, but let's see if these two computers can have access to the internet. Let me ping 8.8.8, which is Google DNS. You can see this computer has access to the internet. The same thing goes to the other side. Let me ping 8.8.8.8, which is good. You can see this other computer has access to the internet because they are utilizing, they created the NAT configuration creates a virtual router for these each VMs. For each VM that you create on your hypervisor using the NAT. So let's shut down this guy. Let's shut down this guy. Okay, we have shut down these two machines. So we are going to configure another type of network configurations to them. Let's see what the difference is. I have clicked on this. Let me go to settings, go to network. I will now click on bridged network. Go to this one, click on bridged. Sorry, this one here is on bridged. I'll go to this one, I'll click on OK. Go to this one, go to settings, go to networks. Network is already on bridge. Okay, this one is equally weird. This one is still on NAT. Okay, let me set this one to bridge. So now when you check this guy, you see they are on bridge. I've configured them to be on a bridge network. Yeah, that's it. I've configured them to be on a bridge network. So what does this bridge does? This bridge is kind of creating I want them to use the same DHCP as the DHCP server that I'm running on my own environment. Your system, your host machine that you are using to create this virtualization platform is connected to a network. For example, let me open my command prompt. I'm connected to a network. So when I check my IP address, you can see I have 192.168.100.72 as my IP address, and my subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, and my default gateway is 192.168.100.81, which is my gateway. So here now, and I want these two VMs that I'm working with to be on this same network, that I want them to get their own IP address from the DHCP server running on my internal internal network. So how do I do that? You create a bridge. So this bridge creates a virtual switch on my host machine, which allows these VMs to access IP address from the DHCP server running on my internal network. So let's power on these machines to see how it works. I'll pause this video and continue as soon as it's up. So I have my both VMs up. So let's check the IP configurations on them. IPA. So here now you can see this one has 192.168.100.198/24, which is the same. Okay, let's go to the other one. IPA. This one has 192.168.100.113/24. So these two machines now are sitting as if they are sitting on my internal network. They are getting their IP address directly from my internal DHCP server running on my environment. So now let's go to my command prompt. You can see this is my IP address. So from here now we can ping either of these machines. I can decide to ping, remember this is my host machine. I can decide to ping any of these machines from here. 192.16. I'm pinging the first computer .100.198. You can see I can get to that machine. So let me try to ping the other one, 192.168.100.113. You can see I can get to the other machine. The same way, if I go to this other machine, and ping 192.168.100.71, that's the IP address of my machine here. 72. So if I ping that machine, you can see, sorry, just 1 minute. Sorry, I think I'm blocking ping request on my machine. I'm so sorry for that. Is a means of securing my environments. I secure my devices on my environments. I don't want people to know when I am active, I'm alive. So is a step of security. So let's go to, let me open it up. Sorry for that. Let me open it up. So alright, let me go to firewall. So inbound, think I blocked it from ping. So I think I'll filter. Sorry. Sorry, I'll pause this video. So this is the rule I created earlier. If you are good with firewalls, you will see I blocked ICMP block rule. So profile yes, enable yes, action block. So I will disable this rule now. So when I disable this rule, I can access. Let's go back and do the ping requests again. Let's go and repeat back that ping request. Ping 192.168.100.72. As you can see, I can access my machine. The same thing goes to the other side, 192.168.100.72. I can access my machine from this one. So what do we get from there? From here, in bridge connections, you the VMs will get their IP address from the DHCP server sitting on your internal network. They do that by creating a virtual bridge on the host machine, which they can use to access the DHCP server. And if you check internet connectivity, you can see they are equally connected. They have internet access, so they can connect to the internet using the bridge network. They can connect to the internet using the bridge network. So there is internet access here. So that is for bridge network. So let's move on to the next type of connection. Let's shut down this because you can't make any change without shutting it down. You need to shut it down before you can change the network's configuration. So here now, I want to change this. We go to the next type of network. Here we are going to look at the internal network. The internal network, when you click on yes, the internal network, there's something we forget here. When I go to this internal network, look at this name here, internet. Internal network has a name here. There is no DHCP server enabled on this form of networking. This will only allow communication between VMs that are connected using the same name, internal network name. It will allow communications, but there is no access to the internet, and they cannot access the host machine. They can only communicate with each other, the VMs that are running, that are configured to be on the same internal network, but they can't access the host. So what do I mean by that? So let's configure this one as well. Internal network. Remember, the name is very important. Make sure the two has the same name, int network, internet, or any name. It mustn't be internet, but make sure the name that you are using there is unique to the two of them. So now let's power on this machine. Let's power on the machine. The machine is coming up. So let's check our IP address. So now what happens is internal network makes use of this interface. Let me bring it up. All right, just 1 minute. You can go to the control panel to easily access there. You can go to the, let me go to my control panel. So network and internet, network and sharing center. So here now, when you go to change adapter settings, here you can see we have a special interface here, which is known as the VirtualBox host only Ethernet. This interface is created when I installed VirtualBox. What this interface does here is we use it to create an, is either you use it for host only networks or use it for internal networks only connections. So what happens is there is no DHCP server here. Like for example, they are utilizing this interface to communicate to each other. So it's a form of virtual. They have created a virtual switch. Remember, a switch is only allows communication within the network, but doesn't give you, I mean layer 2 switch doesn't give you access to the internet. But when you are talking about a router which has routing capabilities, that is when you can have access to the internet. So but what is happening here, they are using a virtual switch which only gives them access to communicate with with one another, but they don't have access to connect to the internet. So let's go back to the machines to see what we are talking about. So here now we can see our machines are up. Sorry, still coming up. So okay, machines are up. Let me log in. All right, this one is up. Let's log in here as well. This one is up as well. So here now I have these two machines. If I do IPA here, you can see this machine has no IP address because there is no DHCP server running for this particular type of network connection. If I do the same thing for here, there is no IP address. So how do we communicate with each other here? We communicate with each other here by, I can easily configure an IP address for them to connect with. For example, if I say NMTUI, okay, I need to install NMTUI, or just 1 minute. A static IP address for these machines to communicate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do IPA add. So let me say I want to give them 192, or sorry, let me change this IP 110.0.2.3.4. Then I will use dev, sorry, slash 24 dev my interface name IP0s3. That's my interface name. Sorry, I need to use a sudo level root privilege to do that. So here I have already added an IP address. So if I do IPA here, you can see I have this IP address here. So let me go to the other machine and repeat the same thing. IPA, sorry, remember root privilege. IPS at 192.168. Sorry, they need to be on the same network as well in order to communicate. So 10 dots. What's the IP? 10.0.2.4/24 dev. Then the interface name is enp0s3. So here I need to add my password. So here if I do IPA, you can see the same IP address, so I need to change that. So let me make this guy 5 instead of 4. This guy is 4 already, so let's do the same thing. So as you can see, it has an IP address now, which is 10.0.2.5. This one has 10.0.2.4. So let's try to ping the other guy, 10.0.2.4. You can see I can access that guy. The same thing goes the other way around. If I try to access ping 10.2 10.0.2.5, oh, there's a problem here. Let's reconfigure this guy. I think we had an issue with this IP address. So 10.0.2. The interface is, So 10. So let's repeat the same thing. File exists. So let's make this guy, sorry, let's make the guy 6 and do something. So let's ping, repeat that ping for this guy, dot 4. You can see I can access this guy now. I can access the other guy, which is dot 4. So but if I go to this other guy and add it and try to get to dot 6, it's gonna take some time to come up. It's gonna take some time to come up. It's gonna take some time to come up. So give me some time. Sorry, initially we configured two IP address to each of these interface, but the issue has been corrected. So now, as you can see, we are still running on the internal network. So I have created an IP address for these two machines like we did earlier, 10.0.2.4/24, and this is 10.0.2.5/24, which makes them on the same network. So if I ping 10, the other machine is 10.0.2.5 from this guy, which is 10.0.2.4. You can see I can access that guy now. If I go to this guy, the other guy, and ping 10.0.2.4, which is the other guy's IP, you can see we can access the other guy's IP. But if I try to ping the internet, remember, like I said, there is no internet on this machine. This configuration, this networking configuration, is just to allow the VMs access each other. So remember, as I said, you can enable multiple network adapters. If you want to have this configuration, you can have this configuration with another configuration like the NAT network that will give you access to the internet, or you can equally have that using the bridge network. You can combine two network adapters running on one VM. So let's go to the next. Before that, if we try to ping the host from here, let's try to ping the host, which is our, let's see, the host has an IP address. This is the IP address of the host. Sorry, let me clear this guy, IP config. This is the IP address of the host. And remember, we have a special adapter that we are using, which I showed you guys earlier. This adapter has an IP address. This is what is being utilized in the internal network configuration and the host only Ethernet configuration. So let's go and check that internal adapter to see the IP address on that internal adapter. Look at that internal adapter. Look at Ethernet 3. So look at the IP address here, which is 192.168.56.1. If I try pinging this IP address from these two machines, which is 56.1, from these two machines, 168.52.1, 168.52.56.1, sorry, this is dot 1. You can see I cannot get to that IP because I'm not supposed to be getting to my host IP because I'm running on the internal network configurations. So for me to see my host IP address, this will take us to the next type of configuration, which is the next type of which is another type of configuration that we can do for network configuration on our VirtualBox. The next type of configuration we have there is let's check that out. Networking, internal network, then host only adapter. The host only adapter, what it has is it's just like the internal adapter, but the only difference is the VMs can now communicate with the host machine, but they will still not have access to the internet. Let's see how it works. So let's open up a host adapter. Let me power on these two VMs. So my two VMs are up. So we have to repeat the same configurations that we did earlier in our internal network. So sudo IPA add. So we use the same IP address. Okay. Okay, in this host network adapter, we have the feature of enabling the DHCP server of this particular interface. Before we get there, before of this particular interface, we have the opportunity to enable the DHCP of this particular interface. So let's go to our VirtualBox. Sorry, let me close this guy. I think my VirtualBox has been closed. So let's go to our VirtualBox. So here now, when I go to files, go to tools, I go to network manager. So from here you can see host only network adapter network. So you can see Nat Network, you can see host only. So from here now you can see the DHCP server here is enabled, and the IPv4 prefix is this IP. You can change this IP address here if you want to. You can configure that IP address manually. You can change it here from here, the network range that you want your VMs to be running on. Now configure that from here. So but we will be leaving this guy as default for now. So as we have powered on this guy now, what we are gonna do, that means by default our machines should have an IP address. So let's go ahead and check the IP address of these machines. So as you can see, this first machine has 192.168.51.101, which is still on the same network range of that same IP address. Look at this one, is 192. This one has an IP address? I think this guy is not yet connected to. I think this guy is not yet connected to. Okay, let me quickly turn it off. Quickly turn it off and come here. That's it, and go to settings. I think this guy is not yet configured to that guy, so that's it. You can see it's host only adapter. So let's configure this guy and power this guy now. So when you do that, configuring and powering on, when I try to ping, let me say I want to ping my host machine. Like you can see, I have my host machine has this IP address 192.168.56.1, 192.168.56.1, sorry, 192.168.56.1. You can see I can get my host computer from here. So if I try to ping these other machines as well, for example, let me bring it up, let me log in to my machine. So if I try to ping this other machine, okay, let's check the IP address. You can see this is the IP address now, 192.168.56.102. So from this guy, if I try to ping this other IP, this other machine here, 192.168.56.101, which is the IP address of this guy, you can see I can easily communicate to this guy. The same thing goes to this guy. This guy can communicate to me by 102. So you can see the two machines here have the same are on the same network, and the VMs can communicate to each other, and they can equally communicate to the host. Unlike the internal network that only the VMs can communicate with each other, they cannot communicate to the host. So, but if I try to ping the internet from here, 8.8.8, like just like the other internal network, we can access the internet. The same thing goes to this one. I want to ping the internet from here. I shouldn't be able to access the internet from this end because I am only running on internal basis. I'm using a virtual switch which doesn't have the ability of routing. So let's go ahead to the last one we have, which is the Nat Network. Init 0. Okay, let's go ahead to the last one we have, which is the Nat Network. The Nat Network is not the same thing with initially we talked about NAT, where we have when we create a VM is on its own separate network. It cannot talk, the VMs cannot talk to each other. They can have access to the internet. Yes, but on this NAT network I don't need multiple subnets or multiple networks for different VMs. What I need is I need to manage all my VMs. I want all my VMs to be on one subnet that is different from my internal network that I'm using on my in my home office. I don't want them to be on the same internal network of my home and to have IP address of this internal network of my home office, but the IP address should be a separate IP address for the VMs. So how do I do that is go to NAT network, click on NAT network save, go to this one. I will repeat the same thing for this one. Settings, NAT network, here, come here, NAT network save. So here now I have configured that. So when you go to files, tools, network manager, from NAT network here you can see the IP address I have already configured on this guy. So I already enabled DHCP, so they will get an IP address from this DHCP server that is running on this virtualization platform. So you can see the DHCP is enabled, and look at the IP address prefix, which is 10.0.2.0, which is they will have an IP address of 2. Any number 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, which falls into this network range. So let's see how it works. Let's start up these VMs and see what happens. These VMs, we have access to each other. They will be on the same network with each other. They can have access to, they can communicate to the internet. They can communicate to the host machine. They can ping the host IP, because it is what is happening. They have a virtual router running on the host, so they can have access to the host IP, and equally, but they can't ping any device that is on the network aside from the VMs running on the hypervisor. So that's just the difference with these guys. Let me log in and let's see how it works. So let's come to this guy and log in and see how it works. So we are into this guy. So let's clear this guy. Sorry. Let's clear this guy as well. So let's see our IP address. You see, we have 10.0.2.12. So let's see IP address from this guy. We have 10.0.2.11. See, they're having their own different IP address, but they are sitting on the same network. So if I try to ping 10.0.2.12, I should be able to access this. As you can see that, I should be able to access this the same way the other way around. I can try to ping this other machine. I should, sorry, 10.0.2. This other network is 11. I should be able to access this. So they can communicate with each other. So if I try to ping the host machine is 72. That is 192.168.100.72, which is their virtual router, their next up. So 192.168.100.72. You can see I should be able to access that, even though it's on the different network, but it is serving as the route, their uplink. Understand? So that is why I can access that IP address, but I cannot access that any other IP address that is on that network. Understand? The VMs can communicate with each other. They can communicate to the host, but they cannot communicate to any other machine outside the hypervisor VMs network. So that is the difference between the NATs, the bridge network, the internal network, the host only adapter, the NAT network. So let me give a quick brief. The NAT network creates a separate network for each VM that you are creating. They will have access to the internet. They can communicate to the host, but they cannot talk to each other. The VMs cannot talk to each other. The bridge network, we create what we call, I mentioned it earlier, the virtual switch. This virtual switch, it is not a DHCP server. What happens is this virtual switch enables the VM access the DHCP server, sits it on my internal network, on my office, on my small home office or your home office, access the DHCP server there and get its IP address from them. So the VMs will have the same IP address as my host machine. So all of them can communicate to each other. They can talk to each other. The VMs can talk to each other. The VM can talk to my host machine. And equally, they can equally access the internet as well. So the internet network doesn't have any DHCP capability on it. So what I can do for the internet network is I can statically create an IP address for different VMs to communicate to each other. They cannot communicate to the host machine. They cannot get access to the internet. The host only adapter is equally the same thing, just like the internal network. The only difference is that they can have access to ping, they can have access to communicate to the host machine, but still they will not have internet access. So the NAT network is just like the NAT, but now we are having one network that all the VMs are into one network. They are not having on their own separate network. They are all in one network. They can talk to each other and they can equally access the internet, but they cannot talk to any device that is sitting on my internal network. So this is the difference between these different virtual networking types. So I hope you understand what we are talked about in these tutorials. We thank you so much for your time, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and thank you guys, and do have a lovely day.